If your nervous system is dysregulated, your numbers will always lie to you. They'll tell you you're winning when your body knows you're not. They'll show growth while your capacity is shrinking. They'll look impressive right up until everything quietly starts to cost too much. Most leaders don't fail because they lack strategy. They fail because their internal system can't sustain the life they're building. Welcome to the Obedient Rebel podcast. In the last episode, we talked about the leadership metrics that you feel, things like pressure, self-trust, joy, and presence. Today, we're going to go one level deeper. We're talking about the KPIs that no dashboard tracks, but God does, and your body absolutely does. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you've not yet subscribed, liked, or hit the notification bell, please do those things on YouTube. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers in 90 days. Need everybody's help for that. And if you're listening on your favorite platform, please rate and review and share this episode with somebody that you think would benefit from it. So we are in this leadership culture that worships output, that looks like revenue, speed, scale, and visibility. But God does not build through urgency. He builds through order. And here's the part that most leaders miss. If you lead from a dysregulated nervous system, every metric you track becomes distorted. This is why, people say the numbers don't lie. Well, they don't, but your interpretation of the numbers absolutely gets distorted and skewed when you're leading from a dysregulated nervous system. You call anxiety drive or ambition. You call adrenaline alignment. You call survival success. So let's talk about the KPIs that actually tell you the truth. Number one is your resting emotional temperature. This is who you are when nothing is happening. And this one is very, very telling. So if you're not launching anything, you don't have to put any fires out. There's no problems that you have to solve. If you're just you, alone with your thoughts, are you settled or are you braced? Most high-capacity leaders live slightly activated at all times, and sometimes it's not slight at all. But you're always scanning, you're always preparing, you're always waiting for the next thing to drop. That's not leadership. That's a nervous system that's trained to expect threat. God doesn't speak through panic. He speaks through peace. So the real KPI here is when life is quiet, does your body feel safe or restless? It was almost comical to me when I would first get clients who would start learning about all of this inner work for greater levels of outer success, and what's really required internally was not what they were expecting, and it certainly wasn't what they were used to. And so when they found that they had stillness in their life, they were experiencing peace for the first time in years, it actually would then trigger some anxiety because they're like, am I being lazy? Am I doing it wrong? I'm not freaking out at everything. I'm staying present in the moment. So it was very interesting at how dysregulated our nervous systems really are, and the deep, deep conditioning and deep programming that we have to always be in hustle and always be in constant output and always be on and always be performing. And then we normalize exhaustion and we normalize stress and we normalize anxiety. And so, yes, especially when you're first doing this work, there is this feeling of a little bit of rocking. Hashtag perimenopause wins. I can't even think of the word, but it's not quite as stable as you think. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not checking all the time for the other shoe to drop. Is this okay? So know that there's a period of, upsetting the apple cart when you're upsetting the apple cart, but it's really worth upsetting the apple cart. All right, let's talk about the second KPI, stress recovery time. This one is huge because stress will show up. That's not the issue. Like, to think that we're going to live a stress-free life with everything that's going on in the planet, right now, and the preparation that for the things that are coming, really, really fantastic, big, wonderful, marvelous things, but there is still a lot of upheaval going on in the world. It just is what it is. Stress is going to show up. That's not the issue. The issue is how long it stays in your body. And you actually have so much more control and so much more influence over that than you may think. So most leaders think that they're responding to current stress, but they're not. They're actually carrying old stress forward. It goes from meeting to meeting, decision to decision, day to day. And what happens is stress stacks. And once stress stacks, clarity starts lying to you. A dysregulated leader does not recover from stress. They actually just normalize it. They call this is just leadership. This is the season. This is what it takes. Chronic stress, however, is not strength. It's a system that never gets to stand down. And actually, chronic stress kills you from the inside out. Nervous breakdowns are nervous system breakdowns. I've had clients in the past who I love dearly, so strong, so capable, so powerful in their leadership, and who spent a year in bed because they didn't have the energy to literally get out of bed. That's the cost of living in chronic stress. My oldest son, when he is stressed and living in chronic stress, he breaks out in eczema. And so all I have to do is look at his hands to know how much stress is in his body. And sometimes I'm like, oh, you're doing great. You're doing great. And other times I'm just like, oh, it's cracked. It's bleeding. It's so tender and so itchy. And stress is a choice. Stress is a choice, just like peace is a choice. And we've been lied to about that and about the price tag of success. The price tag of success is not peace, and it's not stress. You don't stress your way to high levels of success. If you expect to sustain it and maintain it and even scale it, you can't. When you really make the decision that stress is a choice, and there are so many tools out there to regulate your nervous system and to regulate your stress that are so simple that our brain goes, yeah, I'll do that later. Or, oh yeah, I did that once or twice and man, it felt so good. I hear this about meditation all the time from clients who are like, they're getting stressed, they're getting, like things are just piling on them like Tetris, right? And I'm like, okay, well, how are you doing with your beliefs? How are you doing with your meditation? How are you doing with the work that we're doing? Oh, I've not done that for a while. That's why. And I don't say it with any judgment, because when we're in a lot of stress and we haven't changed our programs, then we just default to how we coped before, which really isn't coping at all. But meditation, I have found, is the one that gets tossed the fastest. It gets tossed first, is that meditation. Even though the same clients that have tossed meditation have said, oh man, I used to do that all the time. I did it for months and oh my gosh, I've never felt better. I felt so great. And that's kind of what happens, right? Like we take this tool and we use this tool as a coping mechanism at first, and then we see how much it opens ourselves up, how much it opens up life. It helps us stay present. It sets the trajectory for the day. We're able to metabolize stress really quickly. Like we get clarity a whole lot faster. And then we're like, okay, I got this. And then boom. Because I think in our mind, this is just like a coping mechanism for now because I don't feel peace. But then once we feel peace, we forget what fueled the peace, right? We forget what we actually plugged into, because then we unplugged, and then it doesn't take us very long to spiral out of that. So if you've not meditated in a while, meditate, deep breathe. It's a wonderful, wonderful stress reduction, and it's a wonderful way to choose peace instead of stress, because stress absolutely is a choice. A regulated leader will experience stress without storing it. And so that's what I mean about letting go of stress. Stress is a choice. There we go. Stress is a choice. Because if we're choosing stress, then we're storing it. We're shoving it down. We're dealing with it later, whatever. But if you're regulated in that, you won't store your stress. Regulated leaders will actually they'll let it move through them instead of letting it become the baseline. They don't normalize high levels of chronic stress. They just refuse, like they rebel against normalizing high levels of chronic stress or even low levels of chronic stress. Even low levels of chronic stress are going to have an effect on your body, on your spirit, on your brain over time, for sure. So if we want to bring scripture to it, which of course I do, because if we're faith-filled leaders, then we're letting God lead and we're obeying God's laws and we're rebelling against these man-made constructs that are meant to keep us in boxes and meant to keep us down instead of really fulfilling our potential. But scripture talks about peace in affliction. This isn't avoidance. This isn't denial. This is regulation. Peace in affliction, choosing peace. Turning from stress and choosing to turn from stress and not waiting for the circumstances to change to allow your stress level to drop. Choosing peace in a highly stressful situation, or no matter what your circumstances are, is what's going to change your circumstances so much more quickly, because you're changing yourself internally and you're literally changing the signal that you are sending out. Have you ever been around chronically stressed people? I know you have. We all have. You feel it. They don't have to say one word and you feel it. And automatically you brace and you check, like you just do this on a subconscious level because you are picking up the signal that they are putting out in chronic stress. You ever been around somebody in peace? Yeah, you have. You relax. Because they're relaxed. It's the signal that you're sending. So you're sending a very strong signal, whether you're in peace or whether you're in stress. So here's the KPI that I want you to measure. When stress hits, how long does it take your body, not your thoughts, to return to calm? Because I just had a visual. Do you remember? Oh, classic. What about Bob? I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. And you remember, like, that was his mantra. But anytime he stepped out of his apartment, he felt high levels of anxiety. He's still doing that mantra. And remember when he goes to find Dr. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. It was Richard Dreyfuss's Dr. Martin, Dr. Leo Martin. Do you remember when he's getting on the bus? And he has been repeating this mantra, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful. And he turns to somebody and he says, hi, my name is Bob. Could you please knock me out? Because his body was not getting the message that he feels good, he feels great, he feels wonderful. That's why talk is cheap a lot of the times. Words do have power for sure, but not if our body doesn't believe them. And so that's why we're really about how long does it take your body, not your thoughts, to return to calm when you're in stressful situations. Does it take minutes? Does it take hours? Or are you just always running stress? So it's just kind of normal. Like you wouldn't know life without it. And it's not necessarily like this huge monster. You're just always feeling it. That's very telling. Our third KPI, the time it takes for you to return to peace. All right. So we're talking about like metabolizing stress, but now let's talk about peace as well, because peace is not relief. Those are two totally different things, and we conflate them all the time. And many times we think relief is peace, and it's not. And here's the difference. Relief requires conditions. Peace does not. All right. Have you ever had to use the bathroom so badly, and you finally get to the restroom and like you're able to use the bathroom, and what do you feel? You feel relief. You don't feel peace, you feel relief because conditions have changed. You get to let go. Peace will come later, but peace and relief are two different things, and relief is valuable. All right. So I'm not saying don't ever feel relief and always only ever try to feel peace, but don't mix up the two. Peace and relief are two different things. Edwene Gaines wrote an amazing book called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And in this, she talks about prosperity law or spiritual laws related directly to money. Highly recommend it because these are spiritual laws that will relate to anything in your life that's off. But she does talk about peace as one of the spiritual laws. And she says in there, money does not bring peace. Peace brings money. Now, can money bring relief? Absolutely. We have all experienced relief on a payday, especially when we've experienced living paycheck to paycheck, and every single one of us has at some time in our life. So we experience relief. But if you want to bring money, you must be in peace, because money does not bring peace, but peace brings money. Peace also brings clarity. Peace brings confidence. Peace brings courage. Peace brings so many different things. But if you only feel okay when everything is handled, then that's not you being peaceful. That's you managing. Peace will stay steady even under heavy responsibility. It doesn't disappear when things go sideways. And I really think that peace is a choice. That's another thing that Edwene says. She says peace is a choice. If you want to feel peace, simply choose to feel it. Isn't that gorgeous? We live in this society that has convinced us that we have no power. It's convinced us we have no influence, we have no say, we have no agency. It's just amazing. Just go to sleep, just go back to sleep, go back. You can't change anything anyway. You might not be able to change the world, but you can change your world. And I guarantee you that's the only world you care about changing initially. And that's the only world you do need to change. You don't need to change your spouse's world. You don't need to change your children's world, your business world, or the world. All of those are ripple effects. Those are natural byproducts of you changing your world. Let's stop with drinking this awful Kool-Aid and taking these horrible pills of impotency and we have no influence and we can't change anything and just suck it up, buttercup. No, I rebel against that. And no, absolutely not. I will choose peace. It's the same thing as choosing love over fear. That's a choice. Fear is a choice. Stress is a choice. Love is a choice. Peace is a choice. And these are conscious choices that we make. Yeah, we've got some subconscious programs that absolutely pop us into fear and stress without us even realizing it. But that's why it's called the work, right? These are why these are internal KPIs. We can't tweak something or improve something if we don't know what needs to be tweaked or improved, right? So awareness is huge. Awareness is huge. Here's another thing. If disruption knocks you completely out of alignment, then your leadership is being fueled by control, not trust. I'll say that one again. If disruption knocks you completely out of alignment, your leadership, or we could even substitute life, is being fueled, not trust. God doesn't rush outcomes. And there really is not a reward for nervous striving. We might get the output that we want, but it lands hollow inside, if we're honest. So here's the KPI, and here's the question to ask yourself. When something unexpected happens, how quickly can you return to peace without fixing anything? All right, last KPI we're going to talk about today, number 4, is the cost of recovery after success. Now, that one might feel a little counterintuitive. What do you mean recovery after success? I understand recovery after failure and the bounce back and how long does it take you to be a comeback? And we've all experienced being the comeback kid, which is really fantastic. If you've been in leadership at all or in business at all, you've certainly experienced setbacks and comebacks and all of that. But I'm talking about the cost of recovery of success because this one exposes everything. After a big win, do you feel nourished or wrecked? Do you need days to recover? Are you so completely wiped out, so completely empty and depleted that you need days to recover? Or can you stay present the whole way through? Because if success requires collapse afterward, it was not alignment, it was adrenaline. Now, let me make an important distinction here. When you've had a big project due, when you've had a big launch coming up, there is a lot of energy and a lot of concentration that goes into this. And so, yes, you're gonna feel tired, dare I say exhausted after that. But do you feel physically exhausted but emotionally and spiritually fulfilled? Or do you just feel wiped? And do you kind of feel empty? That's the question to ask yourself, because then you're not able to sustain that kind of success if afterwards you are spiritually wiped out. I've experienced this personally myself, doing big launches and putting enormous energy into something. And on one hand, yes, I'm really grateful for this success. I've had $150,000 days. Those are really, really fun days. But when the applause died and when the celebration stopped, I felt empty inside because I wasn't actually fueled by alignment. I was fueled by anxiety. I was fueled by adrenaline. That doesn't mean that you don't do the project or you don't do the launch or that you've done anything wrong, quote unquote. It means I had an internal KPI that was out of alignment because I was out of alignment. That's okay. I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I know it. Now I can't unknow it. I can't unsee it. And then I can just make sure that as I'm like right now, I'm in the middle of a big project and a big launch that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm like, but I can't let numbers mean anything other than numbers. I can't let it mean anything about my value, about my worth, about my place in business or my place in the marketplace. So I'm being very, very conscious about what is fueling me. Am I fueled by adrenaline? Am I fueled by anxiety? Or am I fueled by alignment? Because God's design for us to be abundant does not leave you empty. Overflow. God's all about overflow. Overflow is meant to be sustainable. Sustainable for you. That's why it's overflow. So here's the question to ask yourself on this KPI. What does success cost you once the applause and the celebration fades? What does it cost? My friend, you were never designed to lead from panic. You were designed to lead from stillness. Stillness is not slowness. It's internal order. So regulated leaders don't just build better businesses. They build lives that don't require escape, numbing, or big, long emotional recovery cycles. God measures strength in presence, not speed. So ask yourself honestly, which one of these KPIs have you been avoiding tracking because you're afraid of what they'll reveal? That avoidance is information. It's not judgment. Now, if you want to go a little deeper in this and you want some help in regulating yourself and getting those internal KPIs better on track, I created a free resource to help you reset how you lead internally first, because that's where we start, is internally first. And you can get it at theobedientrebel.com/way. The link is in the description box as well. You don't need to live in hustle. You don't need to live in performance. Let's live in order where chaos was once running the show. And until next time, my obedient rebel friend, keep your peace close, your obedience strong, and your rebellion holy.